So I have always been saying from the very beginning that my bet is that Jeffrey Epstein was still alive and in some kind of witness protection or in some other country or plastic surgery, whatever, because obviously he has a dead man's trigger, or else he would have been killed years and years and years and years and years ago. I've been saying that from the very beginning. And now we have some other people saying that and saying it very loud. And when you factor in what's been going on with Kash Patel and Dan Bongino, we have something to look at here. And I wanted to, before I even show you, okay, the current state evidence that I will present to you that would support the fact that he has, that theory is exactly what's going on. I wanted to just take you down a trip down memory lane, just to remind you about the history of the FBI, because essentially, spoiler, where we're going with this is that if it was the FBI that had done this, it would mean that the FBI had been the organization that had been running Epstein from the beginning and capturing blackmail material on everybody. Okay. Now, I'm going to show you something later on in the video towards the end of recent cases where they are being directly accused of exactly that. And not only being accused of exactly that, but being accused of that in the Jeffrey Epstein case. Okay. This, it's from a few years ago, so they kind of slipped through the cracks, but I'm going to show you that. But first, look at this. Okay. You guys know who J. Edgar Hoover is? Okay. J. Edgar Hoover was possibly the most powerful non-elected person in modern American history. As the FBI director from 1924 through his death through 1972, he used tools of state to create a personal fiefdom unrivaled in U.S. history. He ruthlessly rooted out real and perceived threats in the United States, from bank robbers to Soviet spies and groups, Martin Luther King, the country's most notorious liar. But Hoover was more than one-dimensional tyrant and schemer who strong-armed the rest of the country into submission. He was a confident counselor, yada, yada, yada. Okay, so here's the thing, okay? Everyone who knows the history of J. Edgar Hoover knows the way he wielded power was with blackmail, okay? He had dirt on everyone. And the irony of it was that the American mafia is the organization that had blackmail on him, okay? Because he was a little bit fruity in the pants. And they had pictures of that, all right? It's basically accepted history now. So when you take for granted that is the history of the FBI, that is what I would like you to do going into this story. And this is one you're going to want to wait around for the end, because like I said, towards the end is where we really get into the recent stuff and what supports this actual theory. But first, we're going to show other people who have now started to talk about this theory openly, and then we'll get to there. If you've been paying attention to this story, right? Kash Patel and Dan Bongino suddenly are going on some big press tour where they're, hey guys, everybody, it's time for us to just tell you guys the truth about this Epstein thing. And turns out he did do it to himself. And you're like, wait, what? They're all Jeffrey Epstein. Yeah, I know you could go to my podcast and find 10,000 clips of me saying, by the way, this is me in character. This is both Dan Bongino or Kash Patel. You could find 1,000,000 times where I said there is no way that he did it to himself. He was almost certainly killed. And here are all the reasons why. It's like, but now, trust us, we have new information, and he definitely did it to himself. And you're like, well, what is that? And they're all, well, we have a video. And you're all, you have a video? Yes, we have a video. That's funny because for those of us who like conspiracies and been paying attention to this story, we had heard from every single mainstream outlet that there was some kind of problem with the cameras, that the security guards had fallen asleep at very inconvenient times. And then the camera that was right outside of his cell had broken. And then there was another one that had broken, and there were like no videos. And then they accidentally erased one too. It was just like just some kind of technical issue, Listen, you can't control everything, all right? And so, yes, okay, all at once, the security guards fell asleep. That camera went out. That camera went out. That camera went out. And I assume the camera went out at your house that was recording you liking this video and subscribing to my channel. Jeffrey Epstein's corpse's ear looks nothing like his ear in every single picture that we've seen, of Jeffrey Epstein. There's 1,000,000 pictures of Jeffrey Epstein, right? There's one crystal clear picture of his corpse. There you can make out the ear, and that's not Jeffrey Epstein's ear. So, but listen, how do you know
that we didn't, just to confuse people, cut the ear off of another person and attach it to Jeffrey Epstein's body, but it is still Jeffrey Epstein. Okay. So obviously people have been suspicious, right? Why are they doing this? And obviously from the title of the video and what you're looking at right here, is Jeffrey Epstein in witness protection is the topic of this video. And here's the thing. Okay. So we're going to get into some stuff here. And the part, as people are starting to discuss this, the part they're not connecting is why and who. Okay. Who put him in witness protection and why did they put him in witness protection? And I am going to show you articles from left-wing outlets that are going to put us right on the right track. And guess what, dude? I know a lot of people think that everything having to do with Epstein, we have to look across the ocean. We're going to be looking right here. Three-letter agencies. All right. So buckle in. Okay. Tell me at any point, if you hear me say something that you think that I'm being outlandish. Now, obviously I am sarcastic in a lot of things, I like to be sarcastic, but if you think I'm making a statement that requires pushback, bam, in the comments. All right. So we're going to go ahead and watch a little bit of this from the new Alex Jones special that he did on this. I know, guys, Alex Jones. Well, I mean, I assume most of my audience knows that the reason you think Alex Jones is a crazy person is because they have propagandized you to believe that, because Alex Jones has such an incredibly consistent track record of saying things that end up being correct if you just wait long enough.
I have reason to believe that the new Epstein video about to be released by the FBI is Epstein's body being removed from his cell. Well, they say it's out in the hallway. It seems Cash and Bongino were made aware that Jeffrey Epstein is in the witness protection because they sure changed their tune. This explains why the video of him killing himself doesn't exist, why the FBI is now claiming new video will be released. This explains why Cash and Bongino have had such a troubling, perplexing take on Epstein since taking their positions at the FBI. This explains why it is taking so long to release the files. Bookmark this post. Well, duly noted. We have a lot of clips to go over here. What made you say this?
Well, the number one thing was seeing Bongino and Cash Patel respond in that Fox interview to the notion of whether Epstein killed himself or not. I was shocked, just like many Americans were, to see them say, oh, he definitely killed himself.
Let's take a look at that, by the way. Let's just take a look at that real quick. And you guys just tell me what you think of their body language.
You said Jeffrey Epstein committed suicide. People don't believe it.
Well, I mean, listen, they have a right to their opinion, but as someone who has worked as a public defender, as a prosecutor, who's been in that prison system, who's been in the Metropolitan Detention Center, who's been in segregated housing, you know a suicide when you see one, and that's
Okay. So I'm gonna pose some questions, all right? Do you guys consider Cash Patel and Dan Bongino to be intelligent people? Yes, obviously. Very intelligent people, okay? Do you think that any of the supporting evidence that he just gave for why we should believe him about this are relevant points of information that we should all notate? Well, listen, if you've spent a lot of your time in the particular facility we're talking about, and you have spent time in the security housing unit, which for the uninitiated is a separate part of the prison where people can be kept isolated and under watch. If you haven't been a public defender, listen, maybe you can't recognize when someone has done it to themselves. You're all right. Now, those are all interesting points of information. However, the part I'm not hearing is the explanation for how his, the bone in his throat had been broken in a way that only this incredibly credible coroner said he's ever seen in ligature-based strangulations. Not ever from someone hanging, because it cuts off here, not here. So I'm not sure all of those things have anything to do with, medical findings. And honestly, they don't have to do anything with anything. Okay? What are you talking about? Dan Bongino especially. Now, Cash Patel, I trust, and for the record, I trust these guys.
And I've said this before. I trust these guys. And where we're going with this, where I think that we are going to get to why this is happening, okay? Like why they're doing this. They are in a very tough position, okay? Because I'm going to tell you right now, it's the FBI that probably put them into, that probably put Epstein into witness protection, okay? Ask yourself that question, okay? Ask yourself that question. If when they got into the Epstein files for real, and they got read into a beyond top secret file, and they found out that the FBI had been running Jeffrey Epstein for the last 20 to 30 years, and that it was the FBI that put him into witness protection once he had been arrested in New York, what are they supposed to do with that? Okay? Like, what are they are running the FBI. Now, as much as you might believe that these guys are in some kind of position to tear the whole entire system down, okay, that would not be doing a good job. And as much as I trust these guys. I trust their intentions. But if you put them in a situation where all of a sudden they get read into this thing and it's like, look, this has been a deep cover operation that we've been running for 20 to 30 years. And you want me to show you the kinds of things that have been produced as a result of this? Like, I don't think people have any idea how dark the world that these deep state operatives actually work in, the deep intelligence operatives work in. Okay, what are you going to do with that if you're these guys? The whole world is clamoring for this information, you know? So maybe they get put in the position where they're going to go on here and just lie. Now, well, let's watch more of this.
That's what that was. He killed himself. You want me to? I've seen the whole file. He killed himself.
Okay. So, I alluded to the fact that maybe it was the FBI that is behind this, right? Okay. So let's watch a little bit more of this thing, and then I'm going to show you exactly why I suspect that it could have been the FBI that put him into witness protection themselves. Okay. But I'm going to ask you a question first. Okay. I don't think anyone believes that he did it to himself. Right? I don't think anybody really believes that. Do you? Probably not, or else you wouldn't be watching this video. So here's the question, though. If your other two options now are he's in witness protection or he was killed, well, let's just address the killed one. I don't think that anybody is going to argue with the fact that obviously Jeffrey Epstein was blackmailing a lot of people, and a lot of people being the most powerful people in the world, right? Okay. You can't just blackmail people with the fact that they have had intercourse with grown-up women, okay? That's what's so like crazy about this entire thing. It's like if you want to blackmail the most powerful people in the world, you got to get them to do something really bad, really bad. And if you find out that some super powerful person is into kids, and then, you know, the intelligence agents, they feed them a kid, videotape it, okay? I'm not even getting in it. Like, I believe that there are these people that work in a completely, a place that is devoid of ethics. And if you listen to Andrew Bustamante, the CIA agent, talk about this, that is exactly what he will verify for you. He's like, if there's someone over here who has tremendous impact in this region, and what they ask you for is a contact that's going to get them a kid, that's what they give them. It's not even like a secret. The intelligence agents will openly tell you that they will feed people a kid. You know, it's insane, but true. Okay. Now, if you're blackmailing the most powerful people in the world, how do you think you would have been alive for 30 years if someone could have just killed you? Okay. You have to have fail safes against getting killed. This is the thing I've been talking about forever, even before I was going to implicate the FBI. Okay. It's called a dead man's trigger or a dead man's switch. It's that, like, if anything happens to me, all you need is either a computer-based, you know, it's like, I mean, obviously he's been doing this well before this would have been, but like current state, you have some kind of like blockchain-based or, you know, in deeply encrypted file, and it literally goes to post on 1,000 X accounts unless you, every single night at 8 o'clock, type in a certain code which keeps it from going wide, and you're the only person that has the code. And so it's like anything happens to me, you know, you could basically, okay, if I die at noon, you got 8 hours before the entire world knows everything that you did, because you have everyone's stuff on there. Because if you're dead, who cares? You burn the world down. And by burn the world down, what you actually mean is you out all of the people who are kitty diddlers. Okay? That's a dead man switch. You have to be alive because you're the only one that could do it. Or prior to the internet, you have a single co-conspirator and they have access to your stuff and no one else knows who your co-conspirator is. And, you know, it's like, look, or maybe, I mean, in my case, if I was me, I would have 7, you know, like I would have a lot of copies and I would have a lot of people. So they couldn't just sniff one out because I know if they could figure out a way to make sure my dead man's trigger is non-existent, they're going to kill me, of course. So how would he have been alive anyway up until now if you could just kill him? That was where I was always at. I'm like, he probably just fucking, you know, called one of the people. They're like, you better get me out of here or else we're doing dead man's trigger. You think I'm going to do life in prison for you? Not happening. Okay. Now, I'm actually just going to switch over here. Now, why do I think it's the FBI? Okay. Whoops, wrong one. So let's take a look at this case from 2022. Okay. This is, where is the date? I'm sorry. Wait. February 15th, 2024. But I believe that this lawsuit is from 2022. Okay, so check this out. This is in The Guardian. Alleged Epstein victims file suit against the FBI for failing to protect them. Okay. 12 Jane Does accuse the agency of repeated and continual failures that helped financier evade justice for more than 20 years. Okay. They sued the FBI. Now, the FBI is facing, okay, look at this. The FBI is facing a claim from 12 alleged victims of Jeffrey Epstein over what they say was the agency's repeated and continued failures, delays, and inaction that allowed the disgraced financier to run his sex trafficking operation for more than 2 decades. Weird. And now we have the 2 guys who we trust, who are the brand new director and deputy director of the FBI, suddenly, after committing to the American people that they're going to give you everything about Jeffrey Epstein, suddenly they come out and make the most ludicrous claim ever. They're like, oh yeah, hey, so all the things we said prior to getting into office, not true. He did it to himself. Trust us. He did. And we have that evidence. And you're all, okay. And then they go on Joe Rogan's podcast and Cash doesn't know anything. Like he just doesn't know anything, dude. He's like, yeah, we've thoroughly investigated this. And you're all, you have? And he's like, so what do you think about the, the coroner who said that he had almost certainly been murdered based on the, the bones in his throat? And he's like, what? Oh, I'm sorry. I'm not familiar with that. You're all, you're not familiar with that. No. I don't even know about that. You're all, what about the fact that they said that all the cameras had been knocked out and that the 2 guards had fallen asleep? He's all, I mean, listen, do security guards fall asleep? Yes. But I'm not really sure about those cameras being out. I don't know. You're like, you expect us to believe that you don't know, like, all of this completely well-known public information? Well, yes. Okay. And then you have this that's like, oh, the FBI, the organization they're in charge of, accused of railroading every investigation and making sure that he never got arrested. Okay. And so maybe, ipso facto, they're the ones who put him in WITSEC. And now these guys are in charge of that organization, okay? The lawsuit filed against the United States in the Southern District of New York accuses the FBI of failing to do the job the American people expected of it, and that the FBI's own rules and regulations required investigate the reports, tips, and evidence it had of rampant sexual abuse and sex trafficking by Epstein and protect the young women and children who fell victim to him. The alleged victims, who appear in court documents as anonymous Jane Does, are seeking unspecified damages and calling on the government to unseal FBI documents regarding Epstein, who died in jail in 2019 while awaiting trial. Okay. Attorneys for the Jane Does, Jennifer Plotkin and Nathan Worksman, said in a statement to CNN that the lawsuit is a first step to getting to the bottom of what we recently learned, that for years, the FBI negligently failed to act on clear evidence that Jeffrey Epstein was operating a vast abuse operation and trafficking ring as alleged. Okay? What do you think about that, you guys? What do you think about that? Okay? So, continuing on. All right. The lawsuit claims that even after the Palm Beach police notified the agency in 2005 that it had received a report that an underage girl was brought to Epstein's residence for a massage. The FBI failed to open a case until the following year. It claims that between 1996 and 2005, the FBI continued to receive direct reports, complaints, and tips concerning the illegal trafficking of women and underage minors, abuse, and human rights violations committed by Epstein and associates. Evidence that the agency ignored, the lawsuit claims, included photographs, videos, and interviews, and hard evidence of kiddie prostitution. The lawsuit also claims that an individual told the agency in 1996 that Epstein and his companion, Ghislaine Maxwell, had abused her and other victims, but the agency hung up on her and failed to act upon and investigate the complaints and tips, and failed to comply with protocol and guidelines, notwithstanding credible reports of solicitation of child prostitution and sex trafficking. Okay? So these guys, who we know should be reliable, are in charge of this organization now. And they are acting like they have no idea what's going on, and definitely comes up. Okay? So, continuing on. Hang on. All right. So, 2009 to 2019, the FBI was complicit in permitting the ongoing trafficking of minors, rape, abuse of girls, young women, which occurred between New York, Palm Beach, U.S. Virgin Islands, and many other locations. Okay. So, I think I'm being pretty straightforward on what I am saying. If the FBI really did intentionally ignore all of this stuff, which it sounds like they did, then is it really far outside the, realm of belief that maybe they put him in WITSEC and because I always said, I was like, it's genius the way that they did this, because they get all the conspiracy theorists to go, he didn't do it to himself. He was killed. Okay. You give them two options, right? Was it suicide? Was it murder? Was it suicide? Was it murder? And option 3 is the one they don't want you to look at, which is he walked right out the front fucking door, dude. Okay? So that's what we got for today. I love you guys. Subscribe to the channel. Ring the bell. Bye-bye.